methods. I'm sure you are aware of this term note taking. This is about taking the notes of a lecture or a lesson that you attend. Some of you have some prior training in that, I'm sure. In all the classes you have been attending for your A levels, O levels, intermediate, and even before that, you try to note down whatever your professor told you in class or your teacher told you in class. Now this lesson is going to be a kind of refresher. Also, my purpose would be that by the end of the lesson, you should be able to adopt one of the methods of taking notes. So do not take notes randomly. Rather, adopt a certain method in a little more systematic manner to take your notes. There are some general guidelines regarding taking notes. Kind of, pre-notes. First one is, come prepared for the class. Come prepared to take notes in a class. Which means you should have all the required tools with you. A paper, a pen, a computer if you want to take online notes. A computer which is charged, not without charging. This is the first general guideline regarding taking notes. The second guideline is, before you start taking notes of the current lesson, you should recall the previous lesson that you did in the same course, if there was any lesson before that. So you might recall, for example, that your previous lesson for this course was making a speech, an introductory speech. So you might tell yourself that the previous lesson was about speaking skill, and this lesson seems to be about listening skill, because whatever you listen, you take notes of that so that you can remember whatever you listen. So this is a very effective way to kind of activate your memory about what you are going to learn. So in your mind, you will have a natural connection between this lesson and the previous lesson. Well, that was about speaking and this is about listening. And then you should have a positive attitude, a deliberate positive attitude towards the lesson, towards the class. And what is a positive attitude? A positive attitude is attitude of learning, that you want to learn. Also, you want to capture ideas. If you plan to capture ideas, then probably your note-taking will become more purposeful. You will tell yourself that all the new ideas that come in my way during the lecture, I'm going to take them down, write them down. They are your notes. And then try to organize your ideas or organize your notes visually. I'll explain this point further in the next slide. What do we mean by visual organization of notes? But one thing that is definite right on this point is that notes must be organized and well organized. Only then they could be useful for you later on. And then another general guideline is that after you have taken the notes, save them somewhere where you can access them again, so that you should be able to revise and review those notes when you need them for your quizzes, for your midterm exams, for your future assignments. Even if you have the recording of the whole lecture of your professor with you, at the time of your exam, you cannot listen to all those recordings once again. They would be hours and hours. But if you have taken notes for each lecture, maybe you can review all those notes for each lesson in 1 minute or 2 minutes because you wrote them in your own hand. So just by having a look at them, you would be able to recall what you wrote. So you need to save the notes to be able to revise and review them when you need them at the time of exam. Now, after general guidelines, we come to two of the methods of note taking. First of these methods is called outline format, and the other one is called idea mapping. Now, both of these methods enable us to visually organize our notes. Let's have a look at the first way or first method of note taking. In the outline format, what we do is we use indented space as a kind of pointer for us. Are you aware of what indentation means? Indent. So people who are more familiar with MS Word, who work on MS Word a lot, they might be aware that indent works with the tab key on your computer. Tab, T-A-B, tab key on your computer. So if you have an MS Word document open, you can always put your cursor next to any of the lines and press the tab key. It will push that line from left to right. Usually it is by default ½ inch. So your line on the MS Word page will move from left to right ½ inch. It is called single indent. If you press tab twice, it will be pushed to the right for 1 inch. Please close the door. This is called indentation. Do you know what an indent is? Good. Now we can use indentation as a kind of pointer for us, which would help us to organize our notes visually. Now this is how you can go about it. You can write your main topics or the main topic for the lecture without any indentation, like this line. It's okay if you cannot read what is written. Just look at the shape of the line and the position of the line on this page. Now this line is without any indentation. This line has a regular margin on its left. And then subtopic. Now this line, this one has a dash with it. 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 And this line has been indented towards right. This line has been indented further towards right. So basically, on the top, we have the topic of the presentation, the topic of the lecture, what the lecture is about. Maybe the lecture is about human cell. Okay? And then these are some of the subtopics. 1, 2, 3, 4. So shape of the cell, diseases in the cell, genetics of cell, things like that. And then under that we have further subtopics, and further subtopics, under further subtopics we have supporting details. Now for every kind of information you indent that part of information. Now look at it. Over here, nowhere it is written that this is the topic. Nowhere it is written that these are the subtopics. Nowhere it is written that these are supporting details. It's not written as such. But just by the position of all these lines, we will remember in future that whenever we need to write a supporting detail, we will write it like this with with double indentation from the left. And whenever a new idea comes, main idea, then with single indentation like this. Again supporting details or examples, then like this. Again another main idea, once again with a single indentation. So just by the position of indented lines, we will create a visual organization of notes. So it will save you time for writing main idea, the definition, details, examples. You don't need to write these words now. Just by the visual presentation of the notes, you will know what is what in all these notes. Additionally, you use these dashes to separate each idea from the other. You don't use numbers or you don't use letters because they are more time consuming. Instead of putting one and then a bracket with it, you just put a dash. You don't have time. Your professor is speaking and speaking and speaking. She won't wait for you to take down notes. Alright? So you have to be quick. So use dashes throughout. Finally, use as much abbreviation as you can. Instead of writing the word like method, you can just write meth, M-E-T-H. For example, you know everybody writes EG. Once you develop that habit of using abbreviation for each word, you will figure out your own abbreviations. But you need to have that habit. You need to develop that habit that while you are taking notes, don't write full words. For complete, you can write CT. For details, you can write DLS. Expressions like that. This format of note taking is called outline format because in this case we have visually organized notes in the form of an outline. This looks like an outline, right? Now, second way of taking notes is called idea mapping. Now, in idea mapping, we use rectangular boxes as ideas. So, one single box on the top would stand for the topic of the lesson. And then further boxes under it, in this case 3 boxes, they stand for the subtopics. For example, in today's presentation, I am speaking on note taking. You can write note taking in the box on the top. And then I am explaining 2 kinds of note taking. The outline format and the idea mapping. So, for the sake of this lesson that I am teaching today, you might put 2 boxes under this first box. So, you can have just 2 arrows instead of 3 and just 2 boxes instead of 3. In one box, you can write outline format and in the other box, you can write idea mapping. Then, for each method of note taking, I have told you various features. So, in order to write various features, maybe you can draw a line under it and then just like these green boxes, you can write the first feature, the second feature, the third feature, fourth feature like this. It goes on and on. Similarly, on this side, you can have idea mapping and then features 1, 2, 3, like it goes on and on. Now, if you have taken notes like this and you have another look at these notes after 1 month of your class, I'm sure you would be able to recall at least 50% of your lecture if you have taken notes like that, because they look so neat. They're clearly organized. On the other hand, if you write down the things randomly, one detail in one corner of the page and another detail in another corner of the page, and you realize you don't have enough space to take notes, So maybe you use the back flap of a copy or you use the margin of a copy. That way your notes will be totally chaotic. And if after 1 month you try to consult them, probably you won't be able to trace them even. Even if you trace them, they will further confuse you. That is why we begin with the idea that come prepared in the class. And when we say come prepared in the class, that means come prepared to take notes. Because what you are taking away are the notes. What you are taking away from the class are the notes. They are going to help you later on. Any questions? Okay, good. So this is the end of this lesson.